My grandmother was a wicked witch. And every single thing that she had done in this life caught up to her up until her last very breath. Y'all excuse my voice because I just finished going into some serious spiritual warfare prayer. Also sitting here literally repenting for the actions of my grandmother and my great-grandmother and any ancestor that's came before them. Because of the witchcraft that's over my bloodline. But it didn't start with this woman. It started generations even before her. But let me give you a brief testimony of who my grandmother was. See, my grandmother taught everybody around her how to worship her false gods, how to bow down to her idols. She taught all of us witchcraft. She tries to raise us all up into witchcraft. All of her 10 children. Only God knows how deep this woman could have pulled me into her witchcraft had he not taken me out of that predicament. And at 5 years old, I got taken away from that entire side of the family, right? Once I was taken away from that entire side of the family, this wicked woman found a way to take one of my precious little Barbie dolls. I'm talking about I was an innocent child, and this woman took one of my Barbie dolls that was left behind and used it as a voodoo doll and put it in the dirt and try to voodoo me back to her. And for 7 years, I kept trying to find my way back to this woman, not knowing what was going on. As a child, fighting spiritual matters that was way beyond what I could actually see. But let me tell y'all what led up to her taking her last breaths. When she passed away, she was walking across the street when a car came and hit her. And it had completely skinned a lot of, her skin off of her body. Particularly from her legs, from her lower body. So at that point, she had been in the hospital fighting for a long, long time. They had to remove certain pieces of skin from one part of her body and try to, put it, patch it up in the areas needed. But she ultimately didn't end up surviving. She died a long and tragic death. And now you see, it's crazy because God had been warning about this since the very beginning of time. See, my cousin that I was raised up with in my grandmother's house, she told me that ever since she was younger, she used to have this dream. This is a dream that would actually repeat itself. She constantly would have this dream growing up. And in this dream, her and my grandmother was driving in a car, and the car broke down. Up above the hill ahead was actually a little house, right? So my grandmother would get out to go try to walk to the house to go ask for help. And on her way up to the house, you would get hit by a car. And this was a repetitive dream that my cousin would constantly have growing up. My cousin repeatedly had this dream up until the point where my grandmother actually passed away. And ever since my grandmother passed away, she ain't never had this dream again. It was almost like my grandmother's fate was written in stone. So I was probably like 17 around the time that my grandmother passed away. I'm 24 now, mind you though. But around the time that I was 18, it ultimately it caused me to question so much, right? Because now by the time that my grandmother had passed away, I felt like I had so many unanswered questions. I was still trying to figure out who I was, what my purpose was, and everything. And before you know it, it was like that woman's spirit, that woman's evil spirit and them familiar spirits was most definitely still lingering all around me. And before you know it, I caught myself going out of my way to seek the same witchcraft that I knew that she would do, because I was trying to get all these messages from my grandmother, and I'm trying to see what my purpose is, and I'm trying to see what spirit can tell me, which are really demons. And it was at that given moment that I opened myself up to the unimaginable. It was at that moment that I started to also dabble into witchcraft. Mind you, this is all my father's side of the family. I am my mother's only child. My other 3 brothers and sisters on my pop's side, they have all surrendered their life to the Lord and came to Christ through the years, right? But I am that generational curse breaker. It has taken me so much so much spiritual warfare to actually break this generational curse of witchcraft over my bloodline, which I'm still working on doing. Because see, as everyone slowly gets saved, the stronghold is over my pops. The stronghold is over my pops, and it's like that woman's spirit just lingers inside of him until this day. Like, ever since that woman passed, he ain't been the same, y'all. And I just really felt led to share this.